Too good.
First tonight, a Brisbane boy aged 2 has just been named Queensland's Young Hero of the Year. Lachlan Bishop West was clever enough to ring an ambulance after his mum took a tumble in the shower. And as Shane Doherty discovered, Lachlan was only doing what he'd been taught.
He was cleaning the bottom of the shower with shampoo, and I remember sort of saying to him, just be careful, darling, that you don't slip. And that was probably one of the last things I said before I slipped, and I knocked myself out.
Lynette Bishop West knows how lucky she is. Lucky her injuries weren't any worse, and lucky she has a son like Lachlan, smart enough to know his mum was in trouble, and the thing to do was call 000.
Where's your mum?
Food in the cellar, and
Okay.
and I got out quickly, and Nita comes.
Okay, can Mummy talk to you?
And I got in the shower.
So the first thing I remember was actually him in front of me stroking my face saying, "It's all right, darling, it's all right, sweetheart."
It took a crisis to bring out the best in Lockie, but what he did was no accident. Lynette started teaching him about emergency calls when Lockie was just 2.
I love it, Mum.
I love you too, darling. When he showed an interest in the telephone, I basically just thought, well, if you're old enough to pick the phone up and push the buttons, you're old enough to count to 3. And I just showed him that you push the bottom button or the 0 button 3 times.
It's something not to be treated lightly, but certainly we have had instances where lives have been saved through kids using the 000 network effectively.
Yes, just got out of the car. Yeah, they've just pulled up there.
This is where 000 calls are answered, and in these days when telephones also come with letters, they say it's important children know to call 000 and not 000. But knowing how to call for help is only a first step. Children also need to know things like your address. They might also have to follow some vital instructions in first aid that could end up saving your life.
Especially in relation to their location and what's wrong, and often that is enough information to help us to actually save someone's life.
Today, Lachlan was named Queensland's Young Hero of the Year, and as far as anyone knows, he's the youngest to do what he did anywhere in the world. Lynette's reward will be that his example will help someone else.
Mummy's not feeling sick now. No, it's feeling better.
Clever Lachlan. World audiences tuning in for the Commonwealth Games have had a lot more about safety, with 2 local schools withdrawing their students from CHOGM ceremonies and many people now believing the meeting should be postponed. Shane Doherty has the latest.
It would be good if we never had to see these pictures again. Better still, that they were never taken. But if the past week has taught us anything, it's that we can't ignore the threat of terrorism. And next month, that threat moves a lot closer to home.
If we were to say today that we weren't prepared to host CHOGM, then the terrorists and the murderers win.
The fact that the Premier is appealing for CHOGM to proceed proves there are those with doubts. Among them, University of Queensland academic Dr. Joe Syracusa. CHOGM will push Brisbane into the international spotlight, and that, he says, is a dangerous place to be.
I think it's grotesque the way these people insist on holding this conference in the light of what has happened.
Meetings of world leaders also mean meetings of world protesters, and they say the American attack has changed nothing. They're still coming. If anything, heightened sensitivity to their presence makes them even more determined to come.
Politicians such as Peter Beattie are using the tragedy that has occurred in the US to step up, repressive measures and security measures in the lead up to CHOGM, which we feel may well be used against people who want to engage in legitimate protest.
And that, according to Dr. Syracusa, makes for an even more explosive combination of determined protesters and security forces even more on edge.
Every protester now looks like he may be strapped with dynamite.
CHOGM begins on October the 2nd. Until then, our police chief says we should get more used to seeing anti-terrorist measures. Bob Atkinson says they're as ready as they can be.
We have the full support of other agencies, including the Australian Defence Forces, the Australian Federal Police, ASIO, the Protective Security Coordination Centre, and other federal government agencies as well.
For the duration of CHOGM, there'll be a People's Festival, an expo-sized party with events at the Convention Centre, King George Square, Roma Street and the Mall. Perhaps that's where, for the first time in our lives, Brisbane people will have to make up our minds and decide whether the threat of terrorism is something we see on TV, or is it real enough to make us stay at home.
And we've been reassured that the security around this event will be very, very strong.
I think the US is a little bit different to Australia and Brisbane in particular.
If there's any threat, well, it just can't go ahead.
And I believe CHOGM should stay.
And we're running, and our reporter Rob Hazel's been wondering if he has what it takes.
It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. I remember I was about 15 and alone in my room, and I was doing it to the sound of My Sharona by The Knack when my mother walked in.
Don't look at me!
I felt ashamed, but later I realised what I was doing was completely natural and everybody did it. Now I find there's somewhere I can actually do it in public and win prizes and also be crowned the world's best. That's right, the World Air Guitar Championships are calling, and I'm going to be the first in line at the Australian tryouts next year.
We're looking to host heats and finals in every state of Australia and then bring back the champions from each state to hopefully the Gold Coast, definitely Queensland, to stage the Australian/Australasian Air Guitar Championships.
Brett Provost has secured the Australian and New Zealand rights to conduct the trials and send someone from here to the 7th World Championships in Finland next year. Along with Tim the Axe Murphy and Slippery Craig Wills, Brett has formed an air band. And the Axe says there's nothing like performing for the crowd.
Yeah, well, you get to express yourself when you're out there on stage and, yeah, that's me.
Slippery's only been playing the air guitar for 6 months, but it seems he's a natural.
Went round a mate's house one night and seen him playing one, and I said, "What's that?" And he just went, "Have a go if you want." So I did, picked it up, showed me a few chords, and off I went.
But, you know, that's basically it, just hearing bands, getting into a riff in particular, never being able to play the guitar and utilising the try-hard element to get up there and have a thrash.
There were 18 entrants at this year's World Championships, and they came from all over. I wanted to see if I had what it takes to make it to Finland, so I got Brett to assess my form.
You've done that before. You've done that before.
Well, yeah, I've been playing for a while. No lessons, though. I
Not
taught
a one.
myself.
Not a
Yeah,
one.
Taught myself. And it seems there's a lot of talent out there who could do Australia proud. The Queen Street Mall brimming with Hendrix-like brilliance. All right, Brett, what did you think of his form?
That was insane. Just pulling that out of this crowd right here and now, a gentleman of this guy's potential. I think we've got another Queensland champion on our hands. There's no two ways about that. Maybe even Australia.
Yeah, I've been training hard.
Some, though enthusiastic, weren't quite as adept, while others were just plain lunatics who stopped at nothing to curry favour with the organiser. But devotees to the art don't look for the accolades on a world stage. They're simply interested in the air music.
My guitar kind of died December, and I kind of miss it. So yeah, I've been doing a bit of the air guitar every now and again. Without it, you know.
It's keeping the memory alive?
Yeah, it's keeping the memory alive, definitely.
Brett says sponsors and venues around the country should be finalised by the end of the year, with the state and national championships to be conducted around Easter.
And then overall champion from that event, #1, goes on to represent the region, Australia, in the 2002 Air Guitar World Championships in Finland.
Brett says this year's winner from England has received a Big Brother-type notoriety in that country. Performers are judged on devotion, charisma and accuracy with chords and fingering. So if you think you've got what it takes, then give it a go. Did you feel it won with the air guitar?
I didn't feel it was my peak performance, but I think better things are to come, so.
Are you likely to be fronting up for the Nationals?
If I was chosen, I would be flattered. I would be honoured.
Rob Hazel, full of air. Well, now for a quick look ahead to our program tomorrow. Mobile phones on